Alright guys, something interesting happened here. I got sick and I forgot to shoot the intro to our hard cider video. So, without any further ado, here is how to bottle and pasteurize hard cider. Alright guys, so it's been about 7 days since we bottled our hard cider and it's time to pasteurize it. And how you know that it's time to pasteurize it is our test jug here. If you take our test jug and you squeeze it, it's got some pressure. So we know that this bottle is carbonated, which tells us that our glass bottles should be carbonated too. As you can see here, I got about 12 glass bottles left. I started off with 26 and I slowly worked my way down to 12. This stuff was so good I just couldn't stay out of it. So I saved 12 so I can show you guys kind of how to pasteurize today. And I don't know if you can see this here, but if you just push in on it with your thumb, you can feel that there's some pressure behind this bottle. So what we're going to do this with, guys, is our big Brewmaster's pot. If you guys don't have one of these, I use this thing for just about everything every day. So what we're going to do is we're going to heat this thing up. We're going to get our water to 180 degrees. Woo! Fire. As always, guys, if you're using propane burner inside, make sure you have proper ventilation. Make sure you're using all the safety tips that comes along with doing something like this, okay? My kettle has a thermometer on it. If you don't have one that has a thermometer on it, guys, any kind of thermometer that reads between 100 and 300 degrees for liquid will work great for this. So we're going to let this heat up, and while we're letting it heat up, we're going to put our bottles in our cooler. Alright guys, we're heating up here. We're at about 170 degrees. And as we heat up, I just kind of wanted to run over some of the dangers of doing this. I've never had it happen, but I've seen online where this kind of thing has happened, is you submerge your bottles and you have one explode. I've always taken extra precautions like the cooler or something like that to kind of prevent that from happening. And if it does happen, it's contained in here. It's not really super dangerous. As long as you contain it and you do it right and you take the proper safety precautions, there's nothing wrong with doing it this way. I wouldn't suggest doing it on your kitchen stove, although I don't foresee it really being that big of an issue. But if you have a wife like mine, you're not allowed to do this kind of stuff in the house anyway. So just keep in mind, guys, that these bottles can explode. It does happen. Just be prepared for it. Make sure you use the safety precautions. If you're doing this in a pot, make sure you have a lid on your pot. You know, there's a lot of different things that you can do. There's a lot of different things that you can do to try to mitigate some of the risk here. So just keep that in mind. Safety first, guys. And as we continue, guys, just so you know that there is a possibility of catastrophic failure and these bottles possibly could explode. So keep that in mind. Make sure you're safe about it. Alright guys, we let it run off to about 181 degrees here. And I'm going to scooch this thing closer and slowly let her fill. Now the cool thing about doing it this way is while this thing is filling up, I can go ahead and close this just in case we have one of those bottles pop. Now remember, guys, when you're filling your cooler, you want to make sure that you have enough water to reach above the alcohol level in the neck of your bottles. That way you kill off all of the yeast and you don't have bottle bombs potentially sitting on your shelf. Not that this stuff will make it that long. If you tried this recipe, then you know that this stuff is killer. Alright guys, now this is our bottle hot tub here, and as you can see, I fill them just below the line on the neck. Okay, we're going to go ahead and close this thing up. We're going to give this about 10 minutes. Alright guys, it's been about 15 minutes. Let's give our bottles a check here and see where we're at. Alright. Doesn't look like we had any that busted. Alright guys, I'm going to slowly take these out and just set them aside here. And what you want to do is let these cool back to room temperature and refrigerate. Alright guys, so what you want to do is let these cool to room temperature, and then you can do whatever you want with them. You can put them on a shelf, you can stick them in your fridge and drink them, you could send them to a friend, give them away, whatever. You know that the yeast is killed in here, and let's say I give it to a buddy of mine who sets it in their cupboard for 3 or 4 days. Probably nothing's going to happen in 3 or 4 days. If I wouldn't have pasteurized it, let's say he stuck that same bottle up in the cupboard for 6 months, most likely what's going to happen is that yeast is going to eat the sugar that's in there, and this bottle would explode in that cupboard. At least pop the top and kind of leak everywhere. So that's why we pasteurize. You don't have to use any artificial flavors or any artificial sweeteners. That's one thing that I really don't like the taste of. Anything that has an artificial sweetener in it, I could tell right away. Even some of the name brands that people use all the time to do this kind of stuff, it just doesn't taste the same as the natural sugars that we use to make this. I'm kicking back here in the garage today and just kind of cleaning up some stuff and running some water and doing a few things. So this has been in the fridge for about 2 days. We're gonna see how this ended up. Set that down. I don't know if you can hear this here. Okay, so we got a little bit of head there, and she did pop, so we'll see where we're at. Now, I don't like a super carbonated drink, so I think this is going to be good for what I like. Yeah, so you can kind of see some bubbles in there. There's not a huge head on here, but oh man, that's good. This stuff tastes amazing. I'm gonna do this again. I'll probably keep a steady supply of this, and if I ever get a kegging system, this is the first thing we're gonna put in it. This stuff tastes so good that I can't even keep it around. I think that bottle and then my test bottle, the plastic bottle, is the only ones that I have left, and it's only been 2 days. My wife loves it. My friends love it. So yeah, it's not hard to get rid of. If you guys liked what you saw today, smash that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see some more content. As always, have an awesome week.